When Gretel and Muriel were heading back to Muriel's hideout, they dropped Brooklyn off at Gretel's old house. Diablo was already at home, and the girls said that Brooklyn was good while she was with them, and then there was no problems at all. Once the girls got back to Muriel's hideout, they wanted to spend the evening together before Gretel headed back home. Gretel, can I request you something? Muriel asked the sheriff. Of course, what is it? Gretel replied, questioned as she what was Muriel's request going to be made about. The next time you see Diablo, can you use a spell to bring back the red-haired witch? Muriel asked again. I promise that I'll have her change her ways like I did. Why? I'm not angry, Muriel. I'm just wondering, Gretel replied. It's just because Red and I were close friends, and Red is her nickname as I call her that, Muriel said. And plus she has short-term memory loss and she barely remembers things when she wakes up from sleeping. Whenever she asks me what happened the night before, I tell her what happened. Oh dear, I'm so sorry that your friend has lost short-term memory loss, Gretel apologized. Maybe she may not remember what happened a year ago, after Hansel headshotted her. Well, it's hard to say. She may forget about what happened before her death, Muriel said. But if she does become hostile and wants to kill you, I will tell her why I've changed and get her to change and warm up to you and Augsburg. This may be hard for her to adjust, but I'm sure it'll work, Gretel reassured Muriel. And anyways, I'll talk to Diablo the next time I see him, and see if he could find her ashes. Thanks, girlfriend, Muriel said, kissing Gretel's forehead as Gretel got on her horse and was about to trot off. She turned to see Muriel bringing her broomstick. You can use this broomstick the next time you visit. It'll be much faster than on foot or on horseback. Thanks, Muriel, Gretel replied, before heading back off to Augsburg. Back at the house, Mina was putting her son to sleep when her daughter started to cry. Hansel was with her and picked up his daughter, then headed towards the diaper changing table. I got her, Mina, Hansel reassured his girlfriend. Before Mina turned to her son, he was sleeping like an angel. They heard Gretel walking in the house, shouting that she was home. Hansel and Mina were surprised that Gretel's loud voice hadn't awoken the twins or scared them for that matter. As Gretel walked into the twins' bedroom, she walked over to her niece, who was getting her diaper changed. You need help? Gretel asked her brother. Can you pass me a new diaper, sis? Hansel replied, noticing that his sister was beside him. Gretel passed a new diaper to Hansel and finished changing his daughter's diaper. Thanks, sis. I wasn't expecting you to not say anything. You usually say yes or sure in that matter. I'm okay, Hansel. Nothing is wrong, Gretel reassured her brother. Anything new happened today? Well, the babies are a lot of work, Mina said, but we managed to pull through. Muriel has a request for me to make, and she wants me to bring back one of her friends to life, Gretel said. This made Hansel and Mina look at the sheriff in shock. Why? Muriel has changed. Why does she want you to bring one of her friends back? Hansel asked his sister. Look, she just wants the red-haired witch back to life, or Red as she calls her, Gretel explained. Red suffers from short-term memory loss, and she might not remember the events that happened a year ago. Wait, so she has bad memory? Mina asked. If that's true, maybe you and Muriel could change her from evil to good. Like I said with Muriel, I know I can do it with Muriel's help. Muriel said that she'll explain everything if Red goes hostile, Gretel replied, reassuring Mina. My sister's right, Mina. If she's changed Muriel without a problem, then she could probably change Red's behavior too, Hansel added. She may be another challenge, but I trust you and Muriel with this. And when Red is fully changed, I'll let Augsburg know about this as well, Gretel said to Hansel and Mina. I will make another speech about that, and you guys and Muriel can back me up on it. I hope that all goes well, Mina said, as Gretel walked out of the bedroom. The next day in Augsburg, Gretel was walking with her broomstick in hand. She was going to find Diablo and ask him something. When she passed by the schoolhouse, however, Gretel turned to see Brooklyn outside. She was sitting outside of the school doors. Hello, Brooklyn. Gretel paused as she could tell that Brooklyn was unhappy. She was feeling sad. Feeling sorry for the young witch, she crouched down to Brooklyn's level. What's wrong? She asked. I'm in trouble. All because I lashed out at the bullies here, Brooklyn replied, feeling sad. What did the bullies do to you? Gretel asked. Did they call you names or beat you up? They called me names and threatened to beat me up, Brooklyn replied, with tears streaming down her face. All because I'm different. Brooklyn, I like you just the way you are. Those bullies just want attention from you. Did you teach them a lesson? Gretel asked. Yeah, and I used my magic to throw them into a trash can, Brooklyn answered. Then my teacher got mad with me and my dad is in the school talking to the teacher. Well, Brooklyn, I'm not going to get involved in this, but I'll say this. You could stand up for yourself to whoever bullies you, Gretel said, as I was bullied as a child, but Hansel stood up with me and taught them a lesson. You did? Brooklyn asked. But what should I do if they bully me again? If those bullies bully you again, I want you to ignore them and tell someone about it, Gretel suggested. Like your teacher, your father, and even me and Aunt Muriel. Go to someone you trust, and they can help you out. Okay, Gretel, I'll do that. Are you here to see Daddy? Brooklyn replied with a question. Yes, I am. Your aunt wants me to do a request for her. So with that said, I am here to see if your father is well, and see if he can help, Gretel said, as Diablo walked out of the school doors, surprised to see the sheriff of Brooklyn. Oh, Gretel, I didn't expect you to be at the doors of the school. What brings you here today? Diablo asked, surprised to see Gretel. I was on my way to see Muriel, but since you're here, I thought I'd ask you to do Muriel a favor. She sent me to ask you to do her a favor, Gretel replied. Oh, okay, Diablo said, confused on what Muriel wanted from him. What is it that my sister needs? Well, Diablo, she would like you to bring back her friend Red to life, Gretel replied. She is the red-haired witch, and she calls her Red, though. Oh, is that it? Diablo asked. Gretel nodded in a reply. Diablo then handed Gretel a small bag of ashes inside. At first, Gretel was confused. Inside that bag has ashes of the red-haired witch. When I brought Muriel back to life a year ago, I gathered Red's ashes, and then when she was burned in Augsburg. Why did you not tell me that before? Gretel replied with a question. If you did that, you could have brought them both back. If I did that, Gretel, it would have meant a risk of you getting hurt. That's why I only brought Muriel back to start, but you could bring Red back to life as well. Okay, just so you know this, Diablo, Red has short-term memory loss, Gretel informed the warlock. So it is possible that she may not remember the events that happened in Augsburg during the Blood Moon event last year. So it is possible. Ah, I see what you mean, Gretel, Diablo replied. I hope you and Muriel can help Red change her ways. She may be a good person. I know when you started visiting Muriel, changing her wasn't as easy as you thought. It wasn't that hard, but I got her to realize it, Gretel said. Brooklyn did told me about what happened at school today. Yes, I am aware about what happened. 2 kids around her age were calling her names just because she's a witch. Diablo sighed. It's been happening since she started school. I can't really punish her as she's all I got aside from my sister. I told her that I was bullied as a kid too, but Hansel stood up with me for the bullies that bullied me, Gretel said. So Diablo, what is the spell you used to bring Muriel back? Gretel asked as Diablo handed her a spell book. Turn to page 38. That is where the spell to bring a witch back from the dead is. I used it on Muriel, and at first I thought it wasn't going to work. But when I saw that she was back from the ashes, I realized that it worked nicely, Diablo replied. You shouldn't have any problems with this spell at all. There are instructions on how to perform the spell. Just follow the instructions, and you'll be all good. Okay, I will, Diablo, Gretel said, before hopping onto her broomstick and then took off. As she flew to Muriel's hideout, she landed perfectly on the ground, in the front near the entrance without crashing. Gretel was getting better at landing good, as she was been learning from Muriel by flying on broomsticks. Muriel came out of her hideout, hugged her girlfriend, as Gretel placed her broomstick down and returned to hug Muriel. As soon as she returned the hug, Gretel placed a bag in her hands. I managed to get Red's ashes from your brother, and he even gave me a spell book he used to bring you back, Gretel said, handing the spell book to Muriel. Well, let's hope this works, Muriel replied. If it works on you, then this spell should work to bring Red back, Gretel reassured Muriel. As they began to perform the spell, they took out the Red's ashes from the bag and placed it into a pile, and they followed the instructions and performed the chant. The spell was then soon took effect, and the ashes were magically forming a person. There was the red-haired witch, or Red for short. She was lying unconscious on the floor with her eyes were closed and her face was pale with cracks. But the cracks weren't as much as Muriel's face and skin was, but Red was sleeping peacefully. Muriel and Gretel then lifted Red up and took her inside the hideout. Once inside, They placed Red on the soft bed that Muriel had placed it for when Brooklyn was over. Now we wait until she wakes up, Gretel said. It looks like the spell worked. I'll thank Diablo for this later. If she does wake up while you're not there, I'll let her know what you said to change my behavior, and then we'll help her change. Although she may be confused if she's good or evil, Muriel replied. Although I am not sure what the outcome would be when she wakes up. It's best if I'm not here when she wakes up. You attempt to attack me when you woke up, Gretel said, remembering on how Muriel's outcome was for when she woke up after being knocked out cold from being burnt a year ago. Well, that was different. You made me realize my mistakes when I was depressed, Muriel replied. But as for Red, I don't know how easy it will be for her to change. None of the girls knew how would Red react when she wakes up. Maybe she'll be hostile or confused. No one really knows. All Muriel and Gretel could do is just wait for Red to wake up. And once she does wake up, Muriel will tell Red the whole story about how she was brought back to life, and Muriel did say that she'll get Red to change her ways, from being evil to being good. Once that was done, Muriel and Gretel will have to help Red by teaching her on how to change for the better. Like, for example, they'll have to get Red to eat fruits and vegetables and other stuff. It wasn't going to be easy for Muriel, but to Gretel, they'll manage to change Red's ways in many ways. After what seems to be 2 days, Red woke up on a mattress not far from Muriel's bed, and the first thing she looked to her left side was Muriel, sitting beside her. Red had a bad memory of her due to her memory loss, but she couldn't remember where she was or what happened. She groaned as she tried to remember what happened. She still remembered the blood moon event from a year ago. What happened? Red stuttered. You were killed a year ago, Muriel replied, and Red turned to see her friend beside her. But you were brought back to life. You were brought back to life. Was it you? Red asked. Her vision was still hazy from just waking up from the dead. Yes, and my girlfriend helped, Muriel replied. Gretel was the one who also brought you back. Gretel? Red asked herself. Then something made her stop. That tramp! We'll find her and kill her right when... But before Red could finish, Muriel silenced her. Relax, Red. You're just waking up feeling confused, Muriel reassured her friend. Gretel is no longer a threat to us, neither is Augsburg. You're lying, Muriel. Is this the truth? Red asked. She was hostile towards Muriel, even though she was her friend, but Red was in denial. She couldn't remember the things that she did in the past. All she remembered was being with Muriel and the other witches during the Blood Moon event, and that was all she knew. It's the truth, Red. I'll tell you why I changed, Muriel replied. She then began to explain the whole story with Diablo bringing her back to life and Gretel visiting her. And after Muriel had finally changed and was allowed in Augsburg, Red started to feel somewhat understand where her friend was coming from. It was bizarre to her, as a witch hunter's trust was forbidden last year. But ever since Gretel's speech about Muriel, everyone was stunned in surprise of how powerful that speech was. After Muriel explained to Red the whole story, the red-haired witch realized that what Muriel was saying, if it didn't take long for Muriel to change, perhaps she would give it a shot of changing her ways, although it may be tough at first. There was a lot Red could learn from what Gretel had taught Muriel. So that means Gretel is the new sheriff? Red asked. Yes, he is. And don't worry, Augsburg is not against us anymore. Gretel made a speech a while ago, Muriel replied. So Red, you have nothing to fear. This is good. Very good, Red stammered. Her mind was still hazy from just waking up. It wasn't long until Gretel flew to visit Muriel the next day, and it was cloudy and rainy outside. Gretel walked inside to find Red awake. She then looked at Gretel, who grinned like an idiot. Why did she grin like one? Red was speechless to see that Gretel was the town's new sheriff. Hello, Gretel. I see that you're the new sheriff, Red stammered, surprised to see Gretel. She didn't even go hostile when she saw Gretel. Guess Muriel's explanation really worked. Red was so docile. Hello, Red. I bet Muriel told you about why she changed and became my girlfriend, Gretel said, emptying her bag of some food items. Well, I kind of did, but still got more to learn, Red replied, still confused on what was going on. Don't worry, no one is going to kill you. Hansel along with Mina are friends with Muriel now, and ever since her brother brought her back to life, Gretel reassured Red. Gretel is right. No one is going to hurt you, Muriel added. Red then saw a jar of honey in front of her. Red liked honey a lot. It was very odd for an evil witch to eat honey. So Red opened the jar of honey and examined it. Honey. I love honey, Red said, sticking her hand into a jar like a bear, and she ended up taking a handful of honey, then eating it from her hand like a bear. Honey was dripping all over Red and on the table. Gretel and Muriel both giggled as they watched Red being a messy eater like a bear. We're not laughing at you, Red, so don't get angry over that, Gretel reassured the witch, making sure that Red wouldn't get angry over something a small thing. We're messy eaters too sometimes. Even I was like that as a kid. I was too, even though it's been a long time since I've eaten honey, Red replied. She continued to eat the jar of honey, as Gretel and Muriel then soon opened their own jars of honey and also began to eat the way Red did as well. I did this as a kid, until I got in crap by my parents for it, Gretel said, giggling at what she did as a kid. They continued to eat their honey, and Gretel had begun to introduce Red to new foods that she's never had before, although some of them were familiar to Red, but she couldn't remember due to her memory loss. From what Gretel learned from Diablo, when Red came back to life, she may not remember the blood moon events that happened a year ago, which was to be expected. Due to her memory condition, it was hard to tell what would happen, but for some reason, Red was happy to be around her friend and her girlfriend, and getting along well. Of course, over a few months, it has been a year since Gretel and Muriel started dating, as they had been together for a long time. Red supported their relationship in the best way possible, even though it was time for Gretel's family to know. She introduced Red to Hansel, Mina, and even Ben when she met Edward for the first time in years. Red had grown attached to the idea of changing her ways and forgot about getting revenge on Gretel and even her family and friends. Now that Hansel and Gretel were running the town, they were doing a lot better job than the past sheriff. Although the past mayor did a decent job, but the townspeople were against the past sheriff for killing the last mayor. And after Beringer's attempt to violate Gretel after beating her up, the townspeople felt betrayed. A true sheriff never betrays the town that they're in. And Gretel was the exact opposite of Beringer. She was never an asshole towards the town people and never accused anyone for anything, unless if she's seen it or there's evidence to the issue. Gretel was kind and had a soft spot for children. Unlike Beringer, he was mean and cruel. Everyone had secretly feared Beringer when he was a sheriff and didn't show it to anyone, mainly because he would go crazy over it. Not only that he may go on a killing spree like a madman, but Gretel was different. She helped the people town out and never murdered anyone for no reason. Gretel was on her broomstick to Muriel's hideout, wondering how Red and Muriel were both doing. When Gretel landed on the broomstick in front of the entrance, she walked inside to see Muriel lie down in her bed. She was sleeping while Red was making breakfast in the kitchen. Red looked at Gretel and waved to her. Gretel laid down beside Muriel, whispering soft things to her ear. Muriel's eyes slowly opened up. She could hear Gretel's soft voice. "Good morning, Muriel. If you're awake, that is," Gretel said. Muriel slowly turned her head to face Gretel. "I was wondering if you were going to come here to wake me up," Muriel said as she kissed Gretel's forehead. "I was lying beside you, just whispering stuff in your ears so you could be waked up by my voice," Gretel replied. "So you think my voice is like music to your ears?" "Of course it is, my dear. Red's been making breakfast," Muriel said. "She's making strawberry cobbler." "You think she remembers how to make that?" Gretel asked her girlfriend. "If she forgets something, we can help her." "I think she's got it. It was one of the things she knew how to cook," Muriel replied, sitting up on her bed and motioned Gretel to walk towards her, then sit down on the bed beside her. "How long should we keep Red here for?" Gretel asked. "Because soon as we know that Red changed, I'll have to let Augsburg know. At least for a few weeks, just to be sure," Muriel replied. Just then, Red walked in to let the girls know that breakfast was ready. When the girls walked into the kitchen, they were surprised that Red followed the instructions without messing up. They sat down and began to eat their breakfast, and the strawberry cobbler was really good. "This is really good, Red. You didn't make a mistake while making this," Gretel said. "You added sugar and water, which makes it sweet." I have made this for a long time. That's one of the things I'll never forget," Red replied. "Due to my bad memory at times, I can't remember when it's the last time I had human food." "Well, we'll have to keep her here for a while. Then we'll introduce her to the town to her," Gretel said to Muriel, who was making a mess with the cobbler. "Once Red has fully changed her ways, I don't think it would be a problem," Muriel replied. Then she finished up her bowl, just as Gretel did the same. Red was liking the idea of being Gretel's friend. She seemed to understand why Gretel helped Muriel change her ways, So to Red, she was beginning to do the same. It did take Gretel a while to get Muriel to change. How long will it be for Red? I don't see how it would be like that. Red could do some good things here, Gretel said. I will have to make a speech about this eventually. I could change, as long as I don't remember Hansel shooting me, Red replied. All I remember was there was a blood moon. I did tell her what happened, and it did take her a while for her to process it in her head, Muriel explained. But she seemed so docile and so calm and relaxed. I could see that. I wasn't expecting Red to be so calm, Gretel said. I believe Red may be easy for her to tame from evil to good. And, of course, she seems to be relaxed. Just as a few weeks went by, Gretel had to make a speech about Muriel's friend Red back to the land of living. Once Gretel was able to do that, Augsburg eventually accepted Red as a good witch. Although it was very bizarre for most people in Augsburg, they eventually started to warm up to her. Muriel was over at Gretel's house or office the next one day, and Muriel made an underground-like place while Gretel was doing her work. Gretel was sending some hunters to kill a bear that had taken one of the farmer's livestock, and that she'll pay them big if they kill the bear. The bear is located not far from the north of Augsburg. Kill that bear and bring me back a tooth or a paw of the creature, Gretel instructed the hunters as they nodded before heading out of the office. Once they left, Muriel headed upstairs to see Gretel taking a sip of tea. Gretel, dear, want to come downstairs? Muriel asked her girlfriend. I was making something underground. Sure, Gretel said as she and Muriel then headed downstairs, and there was an underground-like house. It looked like a witch's lair, but it looked more like a basement apartment than a lair. Like what I've done? It took me the other day when we were roughhousing and we made a hole in the office, so I decided to turn it into something better, Muriel replied. It's a work in process, but it'll be like if I was living here. What? Gretel stammered. What do you mean by living here? Oh, I'm not making sense, Gretel, so hear me out on this, Muriel replied. She motioned for Gretel to sit on the table that Muriel had made appear with her magic. We've been through together for about a year now, and I want to ask you something. Now, before you say anything, I've been having this question on my mind for a while, and I hope you're going to be okay with this. I think we should try living together. You and me living together? Gretel stammered again. This was a lot for the sheriff to take in. Are you sure? If you're not ready to take this level of our relationship, we could wait if Gretel was then cut off by Muriel, appearing beside her within seconds. Yeah, I think we should give this a shot. You know, when couples have been together for a long time, they would try living together, Muriel said, but seeing that Gretel looked stressed out, the witch stopped for a moment. What's wrong? She asked. Is this a bit too much for you? No, Muriel, it's not that. Gretel trailed off for a moment. Try to think of what to say. I just didn't expect you to ask me this. It has made me wonder when you were going to ask me. I should have asked you before, but I was nervous about doing so, Muriel replied. I didn't want to make you feel insecure about this, so I hold off on asking you this. Are you sure you want to try living with me? Gretel asked. This is a huge step in our relationship. What if it doesn't work out and we... But before Gretel could finish her sentence, Muriel pressed a finger on Gretel's lips to hush her. Why do you worry so much, Gretel, dear? Muriel asked comfortably. I was thinking we could work it out, so that way you don't have to leave Augsburg every day to have your duties here. Plus, it would save me time from coming here all the time. I never thought of us just living together. I've just been a busy bee being the sheriff here, Gretel replied, not to mention hunting witches as well. Gretel knew that living with someone that she loved was a huge step in a relationship, but deep down, she's not sure if she was ready or not. She didn't want to disappoint Muriel, but she didn't want to upset her in a way. No wonder why Muriel was spending down underground throughout the day. She was doing something for herself, but also for Gretel.